sales is service.
Absolutely.
You're serving people. You're not selling people.
Right. Yeah.
And so that just kind of clicked for me.
Yeah.
And it made a whole huge difference in my mind.
Welcome to the Greatness Formula Podcast, the ultimate destination for those looking to excel in life, business, and real estate. Join your host, Jamee Allgier, each week as she brings you conversations with successful real estate agents, business owners, and local influencers. We're all about delivering actionable advice that prioritizes one thing, your success. So let's cut to the chase and dive right in. Your journey to greatness starts now.
Welcome to the Greatness Formula Podcast. I'm Jamee Allgier, your host, and I'm really excited to bring you my friend and previous coworker, Ammie Michaels. Ammie has been married for 23 years. You just celebrated your 23-year anniversary. And after working in the corporate world in HR, she ventured out on her own and has her very own HR company, Virtual Assistant. She saw a great need for that after COVID. And I'm super excited to bring her on here. She's got some great ideas and share some really valuable insights. So welcome, Ammie.
Thank you for
You want to
having me.
introduce your business a little bit? Tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do.
As Jamie said, my name is Ammie Michaels. I have been in HR for a number of years. After being in the consulting world doing HR, I really saw that there was a need for small business and startups.
Yep.
Because the traditional consulting world really is designed for bigger organizations. They charge hundreds of dollars an hour. Mm-hmm. It's just, it's not sustainable or scalable for small businesses or startups. And a lot of times they, don't even know that they need the service, or if they know they need the service, they can't afford it. So out of that, I just felt that there was a need to kind of change the consulting world. So I offer HR and business consulting services to small businesses and startups at flat rate pricing.
That's awesome. That's very different from what most people do.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that way it's affordable and accessible to them, and they can get the compliance that they need from an HR standpoint without, the risk of getting fines and fees from, their state or the government, and also just, the advisory services that they need, so they can set themselves up for the best success and growing their teams and making sure that, they have best practices in place to retain their employees.
Yeah, get off to a good start. I think a lot of small businesses and entrepreneurs really don't realize how much is involved with making sure that everything is legal. Like, especially if you're adding employees, making sure that all of that, there's so much to that.
And if, especially after COVID, the workforce has really changed, and it opened a lot of doors and avenues for businesses to be able to operate in other states and hire multi-state employees. And every state has different laws. So it's a lot to navigate, and if you don't even know the laws in your area, how are you going to know the laws in another state?
No kidding. I was talking to somebody not too long ago that was looking for a new job, and she got the introduction package and everything, and then her HR person called her and said, "Oh, I'm sorry, we can't pay people in South Dakota." And she was like, "What?"
And that's another thing. Like, I faced that on my own. If a company is not set up in that state, unless they really want you, it's a hassle to get set up from a payroll perspective. And then they themselves have to know whether or not their HR team, if they have one, can support that state.
Interesting. That's really interesting. So one of the things we talk about a lot on the Greatness Formula podcast is really, we focus on entrepreneurs and kind of that entrepreneurial spirit, and what drove you to go out on your own versus staying in the corporate world. And it doesn't matter what we do as an entrepreneur, we're really selling ourselves. And that's a scary thing. I mean, it's a really scary thing. And what kind of forced you, or what really was your catalyst for deciding that?
I'm sure there was a lot of factors. This is not my first business venture.
Okay.
Years and years and years ago, I was in medical transcription.
Okay.
And just kind of went out on my own, and had my own firm and some people working with me at that point in time, but that whole industry changed.
Yeah.
I think with that, and then also kind of my family background, my dad was a sole business owner. My grandpa on my mom's side had business. So there was that entrepreneurial spirit in my family. And so that's kind of always been in the background of my mind.
Yeah.
And I think COVID had some to do with that.
Sure.
HR is not protected from layoffs.
Yeah.
I've been laid off multiple times
Yeah.
in my career because companies downsize. They go through mergers and acquisitions, and if it's a larger company, typically they keep their teams.
Yeah.
So I faced that myself, and I just wanted to be able to kind of have more say and more control in my overall career trajectory. And the corporate world is not any safer than being an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
So there's several factors there, but also, just seeing, I'm sure there may be other firms out there that are doing something similar, but I wasn't able to find that.
Yeah.
And so I just kind of felt like I was being called to do something that is going to help people and really impact small businesses and startups and just people in general.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's really interesting. All of us kind of have that same, I saw a need. And I think you just get pulled into it. I think it's kind of crazy how, because it is sometimes safe to really go under a corporate wing, or just show up and do your job and you go home. And there is something about being on your own and being in charge of your own destiny almost that just, I don't know, it's pretty awesome.
It's exciting and scary at the same time.
Absolutely.
I was going to follow up to your thought, but I can't remember what it was now.
The camera does that sometimes.
I don't think most people that you talk to that are entrepreneurs, rarely have I come across somebody who said, oh, I did it for the money.
Right.
It's because they have a servant heart and they want to help people.
I think that's a big part of it. It's a lot of people they're just the helper people.
Yeah.
And when you go out on your own and you're I hate to say, for a long time I hated to say that I was a salesperson. And my husband was the one that actually kind of pointed it out to me, and he's very, very quiet and doesn't usually say a lot. But he's like, you might not be a salesperson, you don't think of yourself as a salesperson, but you're a people person and you help people and you problem solve.
Yes.
And that's what makes you good at what you do. And I think that's true of all of us who are kind of in this space, just kind of forging our own ways. And whether it's real estate, or I had a chiropractor and it was the same thing. He went out on his own right out of school. Super scary. And you having come from a corporate world and going into this, it is really about finding a niche to help people and help them succeed. And when you help other people succeed, somehow you succeed as well. So I think that's super cool.
Yeah, that was definitely a mind shift that I had to make. It's around my mindset and sales, because I felt the same way. I am not a salesperson. I hate sales. But just over this last year and some of the mentorship and leadership that I had received, it was pointed out to me that, sales is service.
Absolutely.
You're serving people. You're not selling people.
Right. Yeah.
And so that just kind of clicked for me.
Yeah.
And it made a whole huge difference in my mindset.
Yeah, it's just that, it's that mind shift, just that reframing it a little bit different. I was actually having a conversation just like this. I teach a class, and I was talking about not embracing that sales. I'm not a salesperson. I was afraid to embrace that. I'm a salesperson. And this gal looked at me and she said, my parents were salespeople. I grew up in that, and I'm really proud to be a salesperson, because if I go into a store, and she's like, I hate shopping. I hate shopping. If I go into a store, I go directly for that salesperson because they can show me what I need, they can answer my questions, they can solve a problem, and I'm out the door with no heartache, no frustration trying to figure it out on my own. She's like, salespeople are what makes this world go. And I was like, it was like a light bulb moment.
Yeah.
Like, wow, that was a really interesting way to reframe what we do. It really is just problem solving.
I think she was fortunate to grow up with parents as salespeople.
Absolutely.
Because I think most people, they have a negative connotation towards salespeople because they think of those the used car salespeople,
right?
That have that aura to them, where it's more about they need to sell this car or they want to make the money. And I don't know if I've really ever met anybody like that. I mean, I've bought multiple cars in my life,
right?
Multiple houses in my life, and I've never had like a bad sales experience. No. But it might be where we live too. I mean,
it could be. It could be a little bit where we are, Midwest, and everybody knows everybody. And but I also think it's kind of like you kind of see that goofy kind of storyline in movies and stuff like that, and people kind of grab onto that stuff. And so it is really cool to be able to do what we do. What do you think one of the biggest challenges of, like, if you're looking at your career and being where you're at right now, what do you think is one of the biggest challenges of starting your own business and sticking to it, showing up when it's hard?
Yeah. Well, cut that part out. So it's probably going to be different for everybody, but I think the people that are that have gone into it because they really believe in their business and what they do, and it's that belief in what they do that kind of keeps them going even when things get really hard.
Yeah.
And I think the people that have been through kind of the worst moments, either financially or in their families, because not everybody's family is supportive. I think if it's something that you're going into consciously as opposed to it kind of happens to you, because I know that some people end up in a situation where it's out of like there's no other solution or option for them, and it ends up being the best thing that ever happened. And for me, this time around, the first time I had a business, it was kind of out of necessity. I ended up getting laid off. I was pregnant with my son, and I was like, well, this is all I know. And so I was fortunate that the place that I was doing transcription for wanted me to continue offering them transcription services, and then it just kind of grew from there. And I was very fortunate. I didn't have to put in the hard work to go find clients. They were all referred to me. And so this time around is a little bit different. I consciously made this decision, and it's definitely more of a struggle this time. And so I think if you're going into this consciously, if you are in a relationship, spouse, kids, extended family, get them on board. Have a conversation, share your vision with them from the start, and they're going to be your biggest cheerleaders, hopefully.
Fingers crossed.
There are some family members that aren't supportive of my decision, but I think it's just a different mentality. And so that's definitely one thing. Make sure you have that team and that support within your network, because it does get very hard at times. So that's one thing that I really struggle with, because I grew up as a latchkey kid. I was very independent. I have a younger brother, but we're so far apart. It's almost like we're both single
kids.
Only children. And so I never really relied on other people. I always try to do everything myself, which makes it harder. And this time around, I realized, I named my company Wolfpack.
Yeah.
I needed a pack to support me through this journey.
Yeah.
And so that was one thing that I really had to embrace.
Yeah.
And relying on others, and even just for like somebody to listen to.
Yeah.
You definitely need that support.
Yeah. It's tough too when I think it's generational.
Mm-hmm.
When you grew up being very independent for whatever reason that is, whether it's growing up because your parents worked, or I think our generation was very just super, super independent.
Mm-hmm.
We were that's just how we were raised. You figure it out.
Yep.
To have to go back and rely on anybody is so humbling.
It's very humbling. But I think that also helps us be entrepreneurs, having
Absolutely.
that independent spirit.
For sure.
Because, I think it made us natural problem solvers.
I think
we
it did
had to
too.
figure stuff out.
Mhm.
And what I've done is primarily an online-based business. And there's a lot that you have to learn.
Yeah.
That I had no clue.
Yep.
So it's just being willing to teach yourself that, but also recognize that there are people out there that you can lean on and support
For sure.
support. And that sometimes in business, you don't have to know it all.
Right.
Like I'm at a point where I don't want to continue to learn social media. Somebody please
Please take it. If you know somebody who's a great social media person, send them to Amy.
Send me your teenage child
Right?
or college child who, wants some.
Yeah, absolutely. If you want to learn about social media, you sign up to teach a class about it. And oh my gosh, the stuff I have learned, I'm like, I know more about social media than I ever wanted to.
Yeah.
And it's fascinating.
It is fascinating because every algorithm on every platform is different. And I mean, there's people out there that have made entire careers out of this because they've studied.
Yeah.
And then they know how to kind of, everybody says beat the algorithm, but that's not the point. The point is to master the algorithm.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you are top
of
mind. I mean, your content shows up. But I also think that it's difficult for service-based industries to highlight their services on social media because I've been told now that I don't even think people have a 7-second times attention span.
No kidding.
So how are you supposed to highlight your services in less than 7 seconds? It's not a product TikTok. You can show products all day long.
Yeah. It's not this shiny, flashy thing. It's something that somebody has to actually sit down and pay attention for and be looking for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I know that social media can definitely help, but also recognizing that that's probably not where some businesses need to focus their efforts when they're working on marketing and stuff.
Yeah, that's a good point. Do you think that there's any tools or tricks that you've learned along the way that help you in your day-to-day, stay on track, or when things are hard, keep you showing up? I know that a lot of times when it is hard, it's really easy to kind of bury your head in the sand and go, I'm just going to take today. And then that turns into 3 days, and that turns into 2 weeks. And all of a sudden, a month later, you've almost forgotten what you do and how you do it. What do you use? What tools do you use that are available to really anybody? Because I think a lot of us use the same, we use the same calendars, we use the same apps, we follow the same podcasts. What do you use that you think really kind of keeps you going and keeps you showing up?
So I don't know if I use any apps in particular. Obviously, I have a calendar on my phone, so that's always there and available. I would say for me, it's more, I have kind of expanded my mindset, and I started doing meditation every day.
Okay.
And I notice when I don't do my meditation 2 times a day that I don't feel as calm and as grounded, even with everything that's going on. And so for me, this year particularly, with everything that's been going on, the tool that I use is to kind of slow down.
Yeah.
Because it helps me refocus. I can't think of anything else other than coffee that I use to keep
and now
me going.
you're speaking right to my heart. You know, that's really interesting though, because I have heard a lot of people say after the chaos of like COVID and coming out of like, it felt so you felt so disconnected and just, it felt so chaotic because nobody could really predict. There was no prediction. There was no, like, you just didn't know what was going to happen. And coming out of that, I've heard so many people say taking the time to find self-care and focusing, even if it's 10 minutes in the morning and 10 minutes at night. If it's practicing breath work, if it's listening to a meditation, listening to some sort of, a lot of people listen to Bible podcasts a lot. I mean, finding that thing that really fills your cup before you even start your day. One of the things that we talk about a lot in our company is time management and making sure that you find the time in your calendar and putting it in your calendar, and you stay like you stay true to that calendar, especially that you time has made such a difference for so many people. And I think like my parents' generation, they didn't do that. They didn't carve that time out. And I think we see the effects of that as they age. And it's definitely something that when you get used to, or you have the time, you create the time to fill your own cup, whether it's artwork or music or meditation, or just even going outside and standing in the sunshine for a few minutes when it's warm enough to do so. Right now it's not really that great, but it makes such a huge impact on your your mindset for the day.
It does. And another thing is, and I think as you get older, you realize that you can't always rely on your health.
Yeah.
So
for sure,
knowing that if I am sick, there's nobody else to run my business. So I need to be able to take care of my health, my mindset, my body.
Yeah, absolutely.
To keep my business going.
Yeah, that's a good point. What do you listen to any podcasts, or do you have favorite authors that you follow?
Yes.
Who do you listen to?
I listen to a ton of different podcasts. You can't go wrong with Mel Robbins.
I love Mel Robbins. She's amazing. Yep.
I am part of a mastermind with the Burnout to All Out community, and they have a podcast. I highly recommend it for entrepreneurs. And then another, it's not a book or a podcast, but I joined a network. It's an online network specifically for women in business who want to make an impact.
That's
so
awesome.
I'm part of the Women's Impact Network for mentorship, and it just kind of fills my cup. There's a lot of good teaching and training that comes from that network. It's a free network online.
Is it a Facebook group, or how do you find that?
I think they do have a Facebook group, but they have a separate app where we all meet and share.
That's really cool.
Our wins, our challenges.
Yeah.
And then they have regular mentorship and training.
Awesome. We'll put some links to that in our description for our podcast. I think that's that's really, really great, especially for women who are looking for that connection and just that mentorship. I think that's really important. Yeah, that's awesome. Let's see. So looking forward, I mean, we've been through a tough couple of years coming out of COVID in 2023. I mean, everyone I talk to is just like, it doesn't matter what business they're in or what job they're working in. Everybody's just like, can this year just be over? Like, let's just start fresh. Looking forward, do you foresee in your business or just kind of in the communities that you're involved in, what do you see as potential roadblocks, and how are you kind of gearing yourself up to overcome those?
I don't know if it's so much roadblocks, but I am seeing a combination of coming out of COVID and more emergence of AI.
Oh yeah.
I feel like people are seeking connection more and human interaction more. So I know some organizations have kind of struggled in like larger cities to get people to come back to the workplace.
Sure.
But I think it's not so much that they don't want to come back, it's just in those larger cities, it's usually a commute issue.
Yeah.
Some of my clients are in California and the commute is insane. And so it's just really trying to find that balance in the workplace, and you know, how can we move forward and be the most connected teams that we can be in a remote and hybrid environment. Business owners also have to recognize that, you know, with COVID, it kind of opened some employees' eyes to there can be some balance. You know, why do I have to be in the office 9 to 5, 5 days a week when we were able to do it no problem for almost 3 years? So it's just definitely kind of navigating that, and I think it is a worldwide problem. It's not just here in the US. And the economy always plays a part in that, and nobody can really predict what is going to happen there.
Absolutely.
I would say that's probably the biggest roadblock, is just the economy and not knowing, you know, where that's going to lead us as a nation and as you know, worldwide.
Yeah, I think that you mentioning AI and that connectivity, COVID did teach. I mean, COVID taught us that we can work from home, but I think it also, looking back a couple years now, it also really showed us how much we need, kind of even just need that office environment just to connect with people and have a conversation. And there are distractions when you go to work. I mean, there always are. You know, there's all kinds of different things that are distractions, and you think, oh, I can do so much more at home, I can get so much work done, but you also kind of wall yourself off. And so social media has played a role in connecting people without really connecting people. And AI is taking that a step further, like removing that even further, where people, I think, are really searching for the authenticity and like real people. And sitting down and having conversations like this doesn't happen that much anymore. It's really strange. And I love seeing people connecting at coffee shops and going and actually meeting each other. And like our office held an event just for, you know, local real estate agents, and people are like, nobody does this anymore. And they miss it. So anytime I think you have the opportunity to sit down one-to-one, or even sit down, like invite a group, I think it's fantastic. And I think people are really craving that, especially, I mean, we're going into winter, so we're really craving it. And I despise winter. I can't wait. I'm like counting down the days to 5 years until my youngest graduates. And then I say I'm going to snowbird. I don't know if I can actually do it, but I say I'm going to. It gives you something to look forward to, right?
Yes.
But that connectivity and that authenticity and that one-on-one relationship that we loved prior to COVID, people got away from it, and I'm starting to see people like crave that again. And really, I think that's a great way to build trust and build relationship and build that authentic self again. I think a lot of people really lost that. So that's really,
or those of us that maybe had it are stepping into it at a higher level. And showing up on camera.
Showing up on camera. It's your favorite thing, right? Well, and something else I think is really great that another podcast member talked about was those professional networks, like you talked about an online community. Reaching out and looking into your communities locally, see if there's a BNI group, see if there's a local professional networking group that you can join to help build you up when you might not want to show up.
Yeah.
Those are really, really great tools.
I have been part of a couple of the networking groups here as well, because prior to starting my business this year, I was working for some national consulting firms, and so all my clients were in other states, and I just realized that I need to serve my own backyard.
Yeah.
And so I have joined a couple groups locally as well.
That's awesome. That's really awesome. That it does make a huge difference. Let's see. How do you, we talked a little bit about it, with you kind of doing your meditations, and how do you make time for that work-life balance? Because you have kids that are about the same age as my kids, and your husband's in a professional career. How do you guys make sure that you have time for just family? Like, we're so used to being on all the time. Like, we're just on, we're thinking it's hard to sleep sometimes because our brains are always going, and at 2:00 in the morning you're like, oh, I have this great idea.
Yes.
Like, I actually have a notebook next to my bed that sometimes I'll write stuff down and then I can go back to sleep because it just starts like that.
I use the notes app on my phone because if I were to turn the light on to write something down, it would wake my husband up. It's actually something that him and I have sat down and talked about. You know, we do need to make, each other a priority and our family a priority. And I worked from home even before COVID. COVID just, I think really, especially with kids, knocked down all of those barriers.
Sure.
And so now it's like I almost have to retrain them. Please don't interrupt me when I am on a Zoom because I'm with a client.
Because it's the best thing in the world to see that door open, Mom!
But I'm getting to a point where I would like to be able to structure my days so I can make my family a priority. And you just have to really make a conscious effort. Without my family, I'm nothing. So I have purposely shifted my schedule each day. So I'm doing the bulk of my client interaction when everybody's at school and at work. I have for 2024 already gone through and planned out my calendar, and I have blocked off all the times that the kids don't have school. So I can't have meetings scheduled. I want to be able to be present with my family. So it's just taking those steps and pre-planning, and our kids, like you said, are about the same age, and it's not going to be long before they're out of the house. And that hits hard.
It does. It makes me all teary. I have a senior this year, and I'm just like, oh.
I'm not far behind you.
Yeah.
And mine doesn't want to be here next year. He wants to go be an exchange student abroad. So I almost feel like this might be the last year that he is here with us. I'm not sure how that's going to play out yet, but we're supportive of it.
Oh, that breaks my heart for you. What an awesome opportunity for him. Yes. But I know that feeling, those heartstrings.
I think it's really good for him. So just making sure that by blocking that time out, making family a priority, it just allows for being able to put joy and focus memories first, because
that's awesome.
You're not going to remember your client meetings and your client interactions, but you're going to remember being able to spend time with your family.
And they're going to remember that you they weren't second. They weren't second to your job. And make a date with your calendar. Write that down. Make a date with your calendar.
Well, and part of being an entrepreneur is being able to have that control. And it is a balance when you are the one bringing the money in your business. But if you're not, that's just another way to re-energize myself, to be able to be with my family. And if I'm not blocking that time out, not only are they being put second, I'm being depleted, and there isn't that balance. So it almost takes away from my clients' as well.
Absolutely.
Like I can't be present for them because I'm so exhausted. So it's just, you need to be able to kind of
recharge.
Yes,
Yeah.
recharge.
Yeah.
For sure.
What, so if you had to go back and talk to yourself as an 18 or a 21 or a 25, that young, like just getting out into the world, what advice would you give yourself, having been through what you've been through and worked the jobs that you've worked? What's your looking back now? What would you go back and say to your younger self?
Oh gosh, there's a lot. Part of why I feel like I was kind of called to step up and start this business is for my daughter. To be for her what I didn't have in my life. And that was a strong woman who was seen and heard. I want her to be able to see me now. Because I was not that person at 18 or 21 or 25. I kept myself put away. I didn't put my voice out there. I didn't make sure I was seen. I was just, I was the type of person that would show up, do my job, work really hard, but not try to stand out. And I think you rob yourself of growth when you don't step into it. So I would tell my younger self, who I am going to say is my daughter, because that's who I'd be talking to. And she is a completely different human being than I am. I don't think she will have any problem with this because she has no problem getting online and being live. She's very confident in herself, and I was not. But I don't want her to lose that. So the advice I would give her is keep showing up. Don't be quiet. Speak up. Speak up. Share your story. Let people see who you are. Your authentic self.
That's great advice. I don't even think, I think it's been probably in the last 3 or 4 years that I've kind of shaken that, and I really think we were kind of taught to be quiet, and
100%.
we were taught to not make a fuss, and we were taught to, I don't want to say be subservient, but be second. And that was it was a generational thing. I don't blame that on anybody. I think it's just, and we have taught our kids, don't settle. Don't settle, because we did that. We did that for so long, and I think it's really been just in the last couple of years that I've been like, why did I do that? And it was just really what we were conditioned to do. And my fourth quarter goal was say yes. Just say yes more often to things that can make you grow, that will help you grow,
that make you uncomfortable,
like starting a podcast, like teaching a class, like just getting out. Social media is huge for our generation. We don't like it. We don't like being on camera. We don't this kind of stuff. And saying yes and showing up and pushing yourself, and it really does give you a sense of accomplishment and a sense of this is kind of cool. It's really fun.
You realize you don't have to be quiet. You can share your thoughts. People don't have to listen. If they don't want to listen, they're not going to listen. But the people that do want to listen, or maybe you have something that you can share that they're going through, that they need to hear or they need to learn. And what if you didn't post that video and they never heard it? And
it's impact. It's just the idea of having an impact on somebody else's life, or helping them through, maybe it was just that day, but I think that's amazing.
Just another way to serve others. And I think one of the things that I recognized, especially in this last year, is there is a difference between service and being taken advantage of.
Absolutely.
And back when I was 18 years old, 21 years old, 25 years old, I would just roll over and let people take advantage of me because I wanted to be nice. And
didn't cause a fuss.
There's definitely a difference between, being nice and
There's a
not
line.
sticking,
Yep.
and not
Yeah.
sticking up for yourself.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
That's awesome. I think we covered pretty much anything. Do you have anything else you want to add about just that stick-to-itiveness and be tenacious and?
Yeah, as an entrepreneur, I have not heard a single story where it's been easy.
Right. It is not easy.
It's not.
Nope.
So I would say some of my takeaways, if you're going into entrepreneurship, you have a business you're passionate about, that you'd like to explore or pursue, you're never going to know whether or not you can do it unless you do it. Some of the mistakes I feel I've made is if you cannot use your own funds to start your business,
Yep.
don't do it.
Right.
But I think that also it does allow you to have a foot in the game, and you definitely work harder to make sure that your business succeeds when you're personally funding it.
Right.
But yeah, don't go down that road. Make sure that you explore avenues to.
There are there's
Oh, yeah.
great opportunities for small businesses.
Mhm.
There's huge, and people have no idea what that looks like. Until you actually really get in the trenches and you talk to an SBA loan person, talk to a local banker, talk to someone who's been in the business. How did you get into this? How do I do it without not having income? That's tough.
Yeah, it is.
So there's finding a mentor, somebody you can ask questions to, or somebody
Yes.
who's been down that road.
Yep.
Don't be scared to ask people. I think that's one thing that I've learned is don't be scared to ask someone a question. 99% of the people who are successful out there are more than happy to help you.
Because
And-
they've been through it themselves.
Absolutely.
So with that, I would also say, I just lost my thought that I was going to say. Give me a second.
Okay.
Come back. I can just cut that out. We were talking about not using your own funds. What was I going to say? Anyway, I'll move past that.
Okay.
But yeah, I think since I went down that road and thought, hey, this will be easy. I've done it before.
Right.
Just put it on the credit card. It's also forced me to recognize that even if your business is successful, you need to diversify your income and earning potential.
Yeah.
So explore ways that you can have multiple income streams coming into your business.
Yeah. That's a huge thing I know on social media, and there's all sorts of ways that people can do things to kind of bring in income while they're building something else. So that's really, really great advice. If you know it's going to be hard, start with something that's easy.
Yes.
And start, at least from an income standpoint, start with something that you can survive on and build into it.
Yeah.
Sometimes that's a really necessary thing.
Yeah. And what I would say is if you're being intentional about starting a business and becoming an entrepreneur, invest in a mentor or a coach right away.
Right away.
Because they've been through it and they will be able to basically tell you all the mistakes that they made that you can avoid, which will just make you
it just puts you that much further ahead than someone who's I'm going to do it myself, and that's huge.
And I think part of that was just coming into it still having that mindset of I'm independent, I have to do it myself. The reaching out to somebody would make me be weak, and that's not the case.
No.
I've invested in mentors and coaches, and it's made a world of difference just in my mindset. And it also, they tend to have very big networks.
Yes.
So if it's something that they can't help you with, they have somebody who can.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. Well, and just the idea of just kind of the comfort of knowing that you have someone that supports you and they're looking out for you.
Yeah.
Whether it's a mentor or a paid coach or a network of kind of that, small group of people, just knowing that if you have a question, you don't have to sit and spin out on it.
Yeah.
Like you can, there is no silly question. Somebody's probably asked that before. I guarantee you someone's asked that question before. Or they've, and sometimes it's just simply reframing budget to spending account.
Yes, that was one of the shifts that I made. It's not a budget.
Right.
It's your spending plan.
Yeah.
Because there is no such thing as having a business without expenses.
Yep.
And just reframing it as, this is my spending plan.
Yeah.
I'm taking control of
Yep.
finances by empowering myself.
Yep. And it's not, like the word budget sometimes is really limiting to some people.
Yeah.
So
Like
sometimes
you have to
it's
be
just
restrictive.
Yeah, sometimes it's just having that other person help you reframe something and think
Yeah.
about something from a different angle that makes a huge
Yes.
huge impact.
Yeah.
Yeah,
For sure.
that's awesome. Thank you, Amy. It's been so nice having you on this.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you for joining us again on another episode of the Greatness Formula podcast. We'll have all of the things we talked about kind of in links to underneath here that you can go online and check out a lot of the information that we shared that maybe you didn't quite pick up on. Links to the networking groups that Amy was talking about. They are fantastic. I would recommend that to everyone. And as I always say, do the hardest thing first. There's magic on the other side.
And that's a wrap on another episode of the Greatness Formula podcast. A big thank you to all our guests and of course to you, our listeners, for tuning in. Remember, you can always find more episodes and resources at www.greatnessformulapodcast.com. If you found value in today's show, please consider subscribing, rating, and sharing with someone who could benefit from these insights. Your support helps us bring you more content aimed at making you unstoppable on your path to greatness. Keep striving, keep thriving, and remember, the formula for greatness starts with you.